Hey everyone, so I got an itch to try out another exhaust setup on my 2.7 liter Ford Bronco, and I pretty much looked at every option that was out there. Now I stumbled upon a company called Spania Racing and their cat axle back delete exhaust. Now this catback only includes a resonator and no actual muffler, so right off the bat this is going to be louder, but definitely optimized for very little back pressure. As a heads up, this will not be an exhaust install video, as there's plenty of those on YouTube, but more or less my thoughts on the exhaust and some sound clips at the end. Now this exhaust comes with all the necessary clamps and gaskets needed in the box. Like I mentioned, it does come with a resonator which is there to help with drone. It also comes with a turn down tip if you want to keep your departure angle intact. You don't need to cut or modify anything, and this is pretty much as easy as it gets when it comes to exhaust installations. Now this setup is for both the 2-door and 4-door Broncos, just does not include the Braptor. Now before we jump into the sound clips, let's talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of this catback exhaust. Now first, let's start with the pros. Now the build quality of this exhaust is awesome. It's 304 stainless steel, it has great looking welds, so zero complaints there. I love the look of the 4.5-inch polished tips and just how the exhaust looks from the back of the Bronco. It also sounds really good at idle. It actually has a much deeper tone. It sounds like a much bigger motor than that little 2.7 liter. And the flow-through resonator is very nice, but it doesn't do a whole lot to actually quiet down the exhaust. But it does, again, provide very little back pressure or disruption to the flow path. And the horsepower and torque gains are more than likely going to be at the very top of the stack when it comes to catback exhausts, though I haven't dynoed it to verify. Another neat feature about this exhaust, in combination with the CVF downpipe, you can actually hear the turbo spooling down after you rev, which I haven't heard another Bronco do, which is pretty cool. Now on to the cons. Now I do wish that Spania Racing provided a better gasket, or maybe even a stock Ford gasket where the downpipe connects to the catback. The provided gasket does seem to overhang a little bit on the actual flange, and it can cause exhaust leaks, which is rather annoying. I had to fight an exhaust leak on 2 separate occasions using this gasket, so I just swapped back to the stock one and had no issues at all. Now I do have a CV Fab catted downpipe on my Bronco, so with this catback, it is really way too loud for daily driving. If your Bronco did not have a downpipe, and I could see this not being as bad, but if you have a downpipe, this is probably not going to be the exhaust for you. And Broncos that do have downpipes, well, they're notorious for adding unwanted rasp at around 3 to 4K RPMs. So if you do have a downpipe, again, I'd probably bypass this exhaust and recommend you going with a catback that has a resonator and a muffler. I guess another knock could be that it has dual exhaust tips if you want to maintain your departure angle. Not so great, but they do include that turn down tip, so I guess you really can't knock it there. All right, well that wraps up my really quick look at the Spania axle back delete catback. I'll leave a link to the exhaust in the video's description if anybody's interested. Also, feel free to ask any questions in the comments section, and now on to the exhaust clips.